Let's breathe. As we take that knowing, can't you just feel my love? Can you just feel your own love? As you feel that, let's make sure we're comfortable in our seats. And we know that we're supported right now. We're supported physically by the chair we sit in, and we are supported spiritually by the community that we are part of. As we feel our own love and know our love, we can find joy and peace in that. That we are greeting the day, we are greeting our life, we are greeting people around us with love and joy. Let's take that knowing of our own love and joy into a couple of minutes of silence. As we return our awareness to this place and time, we breathe and we release. And we know even more deeply that we are love. We are joy. We are that. And we share our love, our joy, our acceptance, our openness, our willingness in the world as we bring our gifts forward to use in ways that are unique and special to us only. We give thanks for that and all else, and so it is. Amen.
Amen.
There we go. So the title of my talk today is "The Tomb is Empty." The tomb is empty. So, what does that mean for us? Right? You know, we just the other day, in fact, I think, actually it was last week because it was before Palm Sunday. Zoya said, "What's the metaphysical meaning of Palm Sunday?" So we occasionally have those questions floating around our house because we talk about that kind of stuff. So today on Easter, obviously our question is, what is the metaphysical meaning of this whole resurrection business and the idea that the tomb is empty? Let's look at Mark, who says, "Do not be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth. He has been raised. He is not here." So Mary and some others went to the tomb to give blessings on 3 days after Jesus was buried in this tomb, and they found it empty. And we're told, do not be afraid. He was here. He's been raised. Imagine their shock, their surprise. In fact, they went running down the path And they met one of the apostles and said, Jesus is not there, he's been raised. And the apostle was like, yeah, right. In words of those days. And went to check it out himself. Because who's going to believe this? One thing that we can bring forward into our lives from this experience is this. I rejoice in knowing that I can die to my former self and be born anew. Say that with me, please. I rejoice in knowing that I can die to my former self and be born anew. That we can be reborn any minute of any day. Have you ever had a day that was just going downhill?
Yes.
From the minute you stepped out of bed,
Yep.
it just started going downhill. And you were like, what is happening here? And can you remember a day when that was happening? And somewhere during that day, you put the brakes on. And you said, you know what? It doesn't need to go downhill anymore. I can stop this. I can stop this. In fact, I can not only stop it, but I can turn it around and I can bring my day up. Does anybody have a day like that? It's in our power, isn't it? That's a kind of resurrection. When we rebirth in that moment who we are and how we perceive the world. So I'm continuing to read this book that we're using for our prosperity class that starts next Sunday, The Soul of Money. And she talks in here about Bangladesh, the stories about Bangladesh, and how all of the rainforest had been cut, and about a specific community that was surrounded by brambles. What had been forest was brambles. It was just thick stuff. They couldn't farm it. They didn't know what to do with it. And she and some other people, she was working with something called the Hunger Project, was invited in, and they sat down with the community leaders and they talked with them about what do you need. Well, here's what they found. They found they had what they needed all along, but had lost touch with their resources. They had the people to do the work. They had the will to do the work. The government gave them 17 acres next to this community. And they started clearing these 17 acres. And they got it cleared and they planted it, and the government was so pleased they gave them another 100 acres. So here's this community. All of a sudden they've got the land. They put the time and effort in to clear it. And in the middle of this land, they found a pond that they didn't even know was there because it was all brambles. So now they're going, oh, and we have water. So in this situation, they discovered they had the resources they needed all the time right in front of them. But they had lost touch. They'd lost touch with each other. They'd lost touch with their local government who was able to give them this land. They lost touch with the land itself because they didn't even know they had this source of water right next door. And don't we have that happen in our lives sometimes? We lose touch with our own resources, with what we know and what we're able to do, and especially what we're able to do in community. Because that's the next place she goes in this book, is that we really find our true selves and our true abilities and our true capabilities in community when we connect. So that's one story of rebirth, in a sense. Here's another story. Did anybody see this week?
Yes.
Here was this guy,
Wonderful.
yes, lost at sea for 2 months. He went out to go fishing in his sailboat, and he hit a storm, and he was in the ocean lost. And over this period of time, the wind and the ocean would turn his sailboat upside down, right side up. Upside down, right side up. And so a couple of things happened. One is, he said, there was a little interview on the news, and he said, I prayed a lot. Okay? So he prayed a lot. What else did he do?
He read the Bible all the way through.
He read the Bible. What else did he do?
He ate raw fish.
He fished. He ate sushi. We could call that sushi,
Yeah.
right? He dined on sushi. He collected rainwater.
Yes.
He used his boat for shelter to stay out of the sun. They said when they picked him up, they expected to see a sunburned, emaciated fellow Well, as Zach would have it, when they showed the picture of him before and after, they said it did reflect him losing about 30 pounds. But he went out with resources.
Recommends sushi as a diet, huh?
Yeah. So I think this is a great story of rebirth. I mean, he has been reborn to his family and friends.
Sure.
Because he was gone. He was gone for 2 months. And my guess is he's been reborn to himself as well, having gone through this experience and knowing what it was like and that he came out of it. And I was just so struck that he prayed and he did what was his to do, right? And isn't that the example of our lives? Isn't that what unity is about? Prayer and meditation, that divine source, that divine energy, and also knowing what is mine to do in this picture. How do I put one foot in front of the other? So there's another story of resurrection. Oops, I wanted to tell another one this morning. I was watching CBS Sunday Morning. Anybody else catch that this morning?
Mm-hmm.
So we have a story about this fellow who's at the National Institutes of Health, Anthony
Fauci?
Fauci. I think
like
that's
that.
right, Anthony Fauci. And in the 80s, he was being maligned by the AIDS network for being a killer, right? Because they looked at him as the person who was roadblocking, stalemating research on AIDS. And they were holding him up in effigy, okay, in demonstrations. They showed this morning. And that was his relationship with these folks in the 80s. Well, he had a couple choices, right? He could have gone, leave me alone. I'm doing my job. I'm doing what's mine to do. I'm following the rules and regulations, and I'm doing research within those rules and regulations. He could have said that. Instead, what did he do? People who watched it this morning.
He listened to them and then modified what they were doing around
He
it.
listened. He said, and he made a very conscious choice. He said, I decided to listen to them and see what I didn't know and what I could learn. And as a result, he changed a lot of the rules and regulations around AIDS research. And now that movement sees him as a hero for coming in and doing what was his to do. He was reborn in that experience into someone who said, I want to listen, I want to know more about what's mine to do and how to go about it. So my point being, we just have stories like this all around us, right? These kinds of resurrections. So, what do you want to be reborn to, and what must you let go of to get there? We're coming back to the tomb is empty, right? What do we have to empty out? What do we have to empty out in order to make room and to be reborn ourselves? Are there beliefs we need to let go of? Are there conditions we need to stop looking at the way we're seeing them? We may not have power to change the condition, but we have the power to see it differently, right? We have the power to look at things differently. What do we need to empty out of our lives in order to make room for whatever that rebirth is? And as often happens, as we're thinking about things, we wind up with the daily word. So here was yesterday, right? I let go of resistance and I am at peace. That's emptying the tomb. When a life circumstance arises that I would rather avoid, I do not verbally or mentally resist it. Rather than giving in to resistant thoughts and feelings, I let them safely pass through my mind. I say, into divine hands, I give this situation. In letting go, I am free. That's the metaphysical meaning of Jesus on the cross. Saying, into thy hands I commend my spirit. Into the hands of the universe I give whatever this is that is blocking me, that is stopping me, that is getting in the way of my own rebirth. I let it go and I give it up. There's a beautiful poem. It's Rainer Rilke. If anyone else has read Rainer Rilke, you know he had a capacity for beautiful poems. And it's in this book, The Soul of Money. I love the dark hours of my being, in which my senses drop into the deep. I have found in them, as in old letters, my private life that is already lived through and become wide and powerful now like legends. Then I know that there is room in me for a second huge and timeless life. There is room in me for a second, a third, a fourth, whatever it is, huge and timeless life. And we all have that room. Say this with me, please. I
now release what binds me to a way of being I am ready to let go of.
I now release what binds me to a way of being I am ready to let go of. In other words, your tomb is empty. You get to have an empty tomb. And again with me, please.
I reveal in my life springing up in and around me and experience the world from a new perspective.
I revel in the life springing up in and around me and experience the world from a new perspective. And that is the metaphysical meaning of the resurrection that we get to have in our lives anytime we wish to. Now, in keeping with Unity affirmations, we have a little Easter egg hunt.